Hi everyone, my name is Riley Thornton and I am a registered dietitian and work in the Employee Wellness Department as a wellness specialist. Our department provides employees the tools, resources, and opportunities to be their healthiest in and out of the workplace. Today, I primarily want to talk to you all about the DASH diet, also known as the dietary approaches to stop hypertension. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about what it is exactly, how it can help reduce blood pressure, and different ways to incorporate DASH diet principles into your daily lives. So let's get started. I think it's important to start out by addressing what the DASH diet is and what it stands for. DASH stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. It is an eating pattern designed to help lower blood pressure. I wouldn't necessarily consider this a diet, but definitely lifestyle modifications that you can make to help reduce blood pressure and may help you lose weight in the process. One of the dietary approaches is reducing the amount of sodium we consume. Sodium is represented by the symbol Na on the periodic table, and it is found in salt and also in processed foods such as canned vegetables, soups, packaged foods, salad dressings, restaurant items, and deli meats. Sodium is essential for our health and is regulated in the body by our kidneys. Sodium is necessary to control the body's fluid balance, helps send nerve impulses, and affects our muscles. When there is extra sodium in the bloodstream, it pulls water into the blood vessels, increasing the volume of blood inside your blood vessels. With more blood flowing through your blood vessels, the pressure may increase. It's like turning the water supply in a garden hose. Over time, the high pressure may overstretch or injure the vessel walls and speed up the plaque on the walls. High pressure in the vessels may also put more stress on your heart as it has to work harder to pump blood through the body. High blood pressure and hypertension can be used interchangeably. Blood pressure is the measure of the force of blood flowing through your blood vessels. High blood pressure can be dangerous because it makes the heart work harder and can contribute ultimately to the hardening of the arteries. Having high blood pressure increases your risk of heart disease and stroke. Having high blood pressure can also contribute to other conditions such as heart failure, kidney disease, and blindness. There's a lot of people in the U.S. that have high blood pressure, almost 86 million people, and only one half have it under control. It's important to know your numbers and what they mean because high blood pressure can fluctuate. Monitoring your blood pressure at home and recording your readings may provide valuable information to determine whether you really have high blood pressure and if you do, whether your current treatment plan is working. High blood pressure can be defined as a reading higher than 130/90 millimeters per mercury. The DASH diet is rich in several nutrients known to play an important role in regulating blood pressure, including potassium, magnesium, and calcium. It is traditionally lower in sodium and saturated fat than the typical American. Now, would you consider the DASH diet truly a diet? I would more consider the DASH diet eating a lifestyle or different lifestyle modifications that you can make to reduce your blood pressure and improve overall health. Overall, DASH eating is relatively simple, especially when you start making changes slowly and gradually. It can be very easy and simple to make these dietary approaches sustainable through the lifetime. And overall, DASH eating can really help prevent or lower high blood pressure. As we've discussed beforehand, eating in this pattern may help reduce blood pressure, which can improve our lives and prevent the development of different diseases and chronic conditions. Two very big benefits. So what exactly are these lifestyle modifications? Essentially, the dietary approaches to stop hypertension include an overall reduction of sodium, cholesterol, saturated and trans fats in the diet. Foods that traditionally have these are more processed and packaged, found at restaurants and other fast food establishments. It is important to increase the amount of servings of fruits and vegetables, fiber, potassium, and low-fat dairy products because they can contain those specific nutrients that'll help lower our blood pressure. Increasing these foods will provide many benefits other than reducing blood pressure. All of these foods provide essential nutrients that our bodies need to function. We will discuss in more detail the different food groups and how to incorporate them into each meal. Sodium. Like I pointed out earlier, sodium and salt are not exactly the same thing. Sodium is found in salt, but just limiting the amount of salt you use in food isn't the only step in reducing overall sodium intake. How foods are processed may determine how much sodium is found in it. Many canned foods contain sodium, as well as pre-packaged or processed foods. Whole fruits and vegetables, which are in their whole and raw form, have little to no sodium in there, while canned fruits and vegetables may have a little bit more sodium than what is fresh. As you can see, most Americans consume too much sodium. The DASH diet is not solely just for those who need to reduce the blood pressure. Anyone can adopt these principles to live a healthy life, as most Americans are consuming too much. My goals for today really are for you to be able to savor the flavor with less sodium. And 3 things I want you to be able to do by the end of this presentation would be to detect sources of sodium, connect foods contributing to your overall sodium intake, and be able to control your blood pressure by taking action and reducing your overall sodium intake. I'll discuss some tips and tricks to do all of these things throughout the presentation. One of the best places to start in reducing the amount of sodium that you have in your diet is at the grocery store. And here are some tips in reducing the amount of sodium that we pick up at the grocery store. Did you know that 75% of the sodium we consume is hidden in processed foods such as tomato sauce, soups, deli meats, other canned foods, and pre-prepared foods? One of the best ways to detect sources of sodium is by reading the nutrition label. Foods that have 140 milligrams or less of sodium in one serving are considered low sodium products. However, it's important you remember how many servings of that product you have, even if it is low sodium, because with your daily intake, it all adds up. The recommended daily amount of sodium is about 2,300 milligrams per day. Now here we have a food label, a nutrition label that we're looking for while we're at the grocery store. And if we look at the circled sodium, we can see that there's 360 milligrams of sodium in this serving. Does this sound like a low sodium product? It actually isn't, because it isn't less than 140 milligrams of that serving. Now, one of the best and easiest ways to reduce the amount of sodium that we consume is by choosing more fruits and vegetables. Fresh fruits and vegetables contain little to no sodium. We'll talk a little bit more about how to prepare these at home and season them without adding more sodium. But choosing fresh, frozen, or canned vegetables that say no salt added or low sodium are great ways to get great nutrients in our diet that fruits and vegetables provide, and also limit the amount of sodium that we have in our diets. Now, lastly, when buying canned and packaged foods, like I said, look for the words salt-free, no sodium added, no salt added, or low sodium. That will mean that it is a low sodium product, and they're not allowed to put that on their label if it isn't true. And an extra tip or a myth buster that I always like pointing out is that kosher salt and sea salt are the same as table salt in the amount of sodium that they contain, about 40%. And they still contribute to your total sodium consumption. Now, reducing sodium at home. We've mentioned that the types of foods and the way foods are processed make a big difference on the amount of sodium we consumed. Another way to reduce overall sodium intake is to change up the way that we season foods. Using powders rather than salts is one of my first recommendations when changing up how you season foods. Rather than picking up garlic salt, choose garlic powder. There are many salt-free and low-sodium seasonings out there. but you can also use citrus juices and different herbs such as rosemary, thyme, cilantro, basil, or spices such as cumin, garlic, black pepper, or turmeric. All of these provide great flavor without adding sodium. That first tip is one of the best ways to reduce sodium in your diet, but also preparing boxed foods in their most basic forms is another great way to reduce the amount of sodium in your diet. If you buy flavored pasta, rice, or other meals that come with a seasoning packet, try using only half of the packet rather than the entire package, and season yourself with herbs and spices of your choosing. Incorporating and choosing more fruits and vegetables to cook at home is a great way to get the essential nutrients that we need in our diets. Utilizing those different herbs and spices we talked about earlier is a great way to provide flavor. Like we mentioned earlier, sauces, mixes, and instant products may contain a lot of hidden sodium. If the product contains a packaged seasoning pack, try using only half and seasoning yourself with different herbs and spices. Reducing sodium at restaurants can seem like a daunting thing. One challenge with reducing overall sodium intake is knowing how much sodium is in the foods when you eat out because we don't prepare them. Chain restaurants may provide the nutrition information and give you an idea of how much sodium is in certain dishes. So you can look these up on the internet, or they may have their nutrition information at the store on their menu already. Some ways to reduce the amount of sodium you have at restaurants would be to share a meal with a friend, family member, or coworker, or even take half of your meal to go for leftovers. This will split up that large sodium amount into 2 different meals. Many fast food items such as burgers, fries, and other fried foods may include a higher amount of sodium. So eating these foods more occasionally and practicing moderation is a great way to reduce overall sodium intake. Lastly, as I've said before, eating more fruits and vegetables is a great way to incorporate healthful foods that have a lot of great benefits. Ditch the salt shaker at the restaurant and add a pinch of pepper and give your food some additional flavor if needed. Many restaurants will carry lemons if you want to squirt a little bit of lemon juice on your food items rather than some salt if you need some extra flavor. Now, like I've mentioned before, there are other considerations in the DASH eating pattern that are not including sodium, those being cholesterol, saturated fat, and trans fats, and these may also all contribute to high blood pressure. Reducing the amount of these things we have in the diet may help with weight loss or weight management, and also a reduction of blood pressure. These 3 things may be found in many different mixed foods, such as pizza, hamburgers, burritos, or casseroles. This means that there are many mixed items, including cheeses, meats, low fiber or quality grains. Generally, these items have more cholesterol, fat, and calories. It's important to practice moderation and balance when eating these different types of foods. Now let's get to the good part, foods to consume more often. Rather than following the traditional food pyramid, the MyPlate method is used to represent how our plate should look in each meal and how to fit each food group into our overall diets. The MyPlate method divides a standard plate into 4 different sections for each food group, showcasing the portion or recommended size we should aim for at each meal. Half of our plate should include fruits and vegetables, choosing more whole fruits and vegetables more often. Frozen fruits and vegetables are a great option that can provide the same nutrients without the expense of spoiling as quickly. With frozen fruits and vegetables, however, it's important to look at the sauces that it is prepared in and still the sodium that is on the nutrition label. A quarter of our plate should include grains, and specifically whole grains. Grains can be divided into two different subgroups, whole grains and refined grains. Some examples of whole grains may include whole wheat flour and breads, oatmeal, and brown rice. Fiber is an important component of whole grains and why we recommend choosing whole grains more often in the diet. Now, when incorporating more fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, it's important to consider that fiber. Eating more of these foods than you are accustomed to may cause more frequent trips to the bathroom, so be sure to increase the amount of servings of these foods gradually and continue to stay hydrated by drinking water. Now, low-fat dairy is also important to incorporate into our diets, and if you can see here, we can add some low-fat mozzarella cheese to our vegetables and give it a little bit more flavor. Low-fat dairy can provide essential nutrients such as vitamin D and calcium. Lean meats have great benefits such as protein that provide building blocks to our muscles and give us energy, that sustained energy. I have salmon pictured in my plate, but I like to think of meat as part of the meal rather than the main focus of the meal. Using the My Plate method, lean proteins such as fish, chicken, pork tenderloin, or other lean cuts of meat should make up about a quarter of your plate. Here we have the graphic for the My Plate, and if you'd like any more information, you should visit www.choosemyplate.gov. Lastly, I really want to go back over the things that we can take away from this. What can I take away from the DASH diet, and how can I implement this into my lifestyle? The DASH diet really is just a lifestyle modification that anyone can incorporate into their diets to maintain a healthy lifestyle and prevent the development of different diseases. It's not necessarily structured just for those that need to reduce their blood pressure. It can be adopted into anyone's eating practices and promotes overall healthy living. Increasing the amounts of fruits and vegetables and reducing our intake of sodium are key components to reducing blood pressure and living a healthy life. Remember, fruits and vegetables provide us with essential nutrients such as potassium, magnesium, and calcium that can help reduce blood pressure, but also help our body work the way it's supposed to. Lastly, remember that you can savor the flavor and get even more flavor without adding additional sodium. You can use herbs and spices, citrus juices, and other seasonings that don't include as much sodium or salt that give your foods lots of flavor. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. If anyone has any additional questions on what we do in employee wellness, how we can help you or your department, do not hesitate to reach out to me at rileyt@uab.edu. But we'd love for you to visit our website, www.uab.edu/wellness. Again, if any questions arise about the DASH diet, different things our department is doing to keep you healthy, and how to get involved in more wellness initiatives, feel free to email me at rileyt@uab.edu. Thank you for listening.